Tonight, the collective steps behind the velvet curtain of history, where the Vatican's hidden rooms do not just hold old paper, they hold memory with fingerprints on it. This scroll is not about chasing spooky hallway rumors or arguing with internet goblins wearing aluminum helmets. No, beloved collective. Tonight, we are learning how power hides truth in plain sight, inside archives, decrees, censored histories, colonial blessings, wartime silence, stolen sacred knowledge, and documents so old they practically cough dust and judgment. The lesson tonight is simple, but heavy. The hidden is not always hidden because it is magical. Sometimes it is hidden because it is evidence. And when evidence sleeps too long, the wounded bloodlines wake up asking questions. Tonight, we open the scroll of sealed memory, holy paperwork, empire dressed in robes, and the sacred duty to read what power prayed we would never understand. Because truth does not fear the archive. Truth fears only one thing: a people who forgot they were allowed to ask. Collective, gather close, not in fear, not in rage, but in clear sight. For the greatest secrets of this world were not always buried beneath temples or guarded by winged beasts with flaming swords. Some were signed by men with clean hands and dirty intentions. Some were sealed in wax. Some were translated badly on purpose. Some were renamed, relocated, restricted, and then called history once the living witnesses were gone. That is the oldest trick of empire. First, wound the people. Then archive the wound. Then tell the descendants they are imagining the scar. But the soul remembers what the library delays. The blood remembers what the classroom skipped. The ancestors remember what the official story folded into a drawer and whispered, "Not yet." So tonight, we do not enter the Vatican as fools looking for monsters in the walls. Humanity already has enough monsters with job titles. Thank you very much. Tonight, we enter as witnesses. We are not here to hate the sacred. We are here to separate the sacred from the systems that wore it like a costume, because divine truth does not need secrecy to survive. Only control does. And when the collective learns to read the hidden record, the spell breaks. The crown becomes paperwork. The empire becomes confession. The archive becomes a witness stand, and the people become living testimony. So open your spirit, sharpen your discernment, and keep your humor close, because some of these old institutions have skeletons so organized they probably labeled the bones alphabetically. Do not fear hidden knowledge. Fear the comfort that keeps you from seeking it. The scroll is open.
Channeled by your architect musician, 36110, 27 palms of eyes. The golden whisperer, sea star, Devalan see all. Apply the news you can use, truth and accuracy. The real non-bedazzled jewels.
The real hidden Vatican information the collective needs right now is not one magic scroll locked behind a dragon door. It is worse and more useful. Records of how spiritual authority, empire, land theft, slavery, war silence, forbidden knowledge, and controlled access were documented through centuries of institutional paperwork. Bureaucracy, naturally, is where humanity hides its monsters because even demons apparently need filing cabinets. The Vatican Apostolic Archive holds about 12 centuries of material, more than 600 archival fonds, and over 85 kilometers of shelving, with some stored in an underground bunker beneath the Vatican museums. Access is free but restricted to qualified scholars, and current access generally runs only through the end of Pope Pius XII's pontificate in October 1958. So yes, hidden. Not always secret demon portal hidden, but definitely you need credentials, patience, Latin, and a nervous system made of granite hidden. The Vatican Hidden Scrolls. What the collective needs right now. Scroll Eye, the archive is not empty, it is loud. The first hidden truth is this. The Vatican's secret archive was renamed the Vatican Apostolic Archive in 2019 by Pope Francis, but the old name was not just internet bait. Secret historically meant private, belonging to the Pope's own office, not Area 51 with cassocks. Still, private power is power. A private archive can hold public consequences, and when public consequences are locked behind scholarly gates, the people inherit rumors while institutions inherit memory. So the collective must understand, the hidden treasure is not merely forbidden books. It is continuity. Letters, trial transcripts, papal decrees, diplomatic cables, petitions, records of who asked for power, who gave it, who resisted it, and who pretended they had no idea after the blood dried. That is why archives matter, not because they always contain wild mysteries, but because they show how respectable handwriting can authorize unspeakable things. Evil does not always arrive with horns. Sometimes it arrives with wax seals, perfect margins, and somebody saying, "This is legally complicated." Humanity truly has committed crimes in fonts. Core wisdom. The first spell of control is not silence. It is controlled access to memory. Scroll 2. The bulls that blessed conquest. The second hidden truth is land. Not just land as soil, but land as identity, bloodline, ancestor, language, ceremony, and future. In 2023, the Vatican formally addressed the so-called doctrine of discovery, naming papal bulls often cited by scholars as part of its foundation. Dum Diversas in 1452, Romanus Pontifex in 1455, and Inter Cetera in 1493. The Vatican statement said, "The doctrine of discovery is not Catholic teaching," while also acknowledging that those papal documents did not adequately reflect the equal dignity and rights of indigenous peoples. Now hear the hidden part. Even when an institution says, "That was never our true teaching," the historical machinery still mattered. Those documents were part of the language empires used to justify domination, seizure, conversion, extraction, and the spiritual laundering of greed. The altar got used as a stamp pad. The crown got holy perfume sprayed on it. The ship sailed. The people suffered. And right now, this matters because the world is still arguing over land, sovereignty, reparations, stolen artifacts, cultural memory, and who gets to define history. The Vatican has returned some indigenous cultural artifacts to Canada, but critics still call for deeper transparency and more repatriation, because apparently returning stolen sacred objects is still being treated like a dramatic plot twist instead of basic decency. Core wisdom. When a spiritual document is used to steal land, healing requires more than apology. It requires return, repair, and truth with its shoes on. Scroll 3. The Slavery Confession and the Digital Chain. The third hidden truth is slavery, ancient and modern. On May 25, 2026, Pope Leo XIV's first encyclical, Magnifica Humanitas, addressed artificial intelligence, human dignity, and modern forms of exploitation. Vatican sources summarize that he renewed condemnation of slavery, trafficking, and the commodification of persons, and asked forgiveness for the Church's delay in condemning slavery. Reuters and AP reported that this was one of the clearest papal acknowledgments yet of the Church's historical role in legitimizing slavery. Now that is not dusty history. That is today's thunder. Because the old chain was iron, ship, law, plantation, and auction block. The new chain may be algorithm, data, debt, surveillance, digital labor, trafficking networks, and corporate systems that harvest human life while smiling in minimalist branding. The Vatican's own current warning ties the old wound to the new machine. If technology treats humans as product, the empire did not die. It updated its software. So the collective needs this hidden Vatican lesson. The Church is now publicly confronting what many communities have carried in blood memory for centuries. But confession is the door, not the whole house. The work is accountability, restoration, and protection of living people from new systems of bondage. Core wisdom. If the chain becomes invisible, the enslaver calls it innovation. Scroll 4. The War Files and the Silence Problem. The fourth hidden truth sits inside the wartime records of Pope Pius XII, whose archives were opened to scholars in March 2020. The United States Holocaust Memorial Museum described the Pius XII-era archive as about 16 million pages that could shed light on Vatican actions during World War II and the Holocaust. This is where the scroll gets heavy. The hidden question is not simple. It is not hero or villain, because history laughs at lazy labels, then throws a brick. The real question is, what did leadership know? When did they know it? What did they say publicly? What did they do privately? And who paid the price for institutional caution? Recent reporting on documents from the Vatican archives described correspondence indicating that Pius XII received detailed information from a German Jesuit about Nazi mass killings in 1942, while separate research has also documented Catholic convents and monasteries in Rome sheltering thousands of Jews during the war. These findings do not cancel each other. They reveal the terrible complexity. Courage below, caution above, rescue in some rooms, silence in others. The collective needs this because we are living in another age of mass suffering and polished excuses. The lesson is not hate religion. That is too small. The lesson is institutions must never hide behind neutrality when human beings are being devoured. Core wisdom. Silence is not always peace. Sometimes silence is fear, wearing a respectable coat. Scroll V, the Templar file, the Galileo file, and the pattern of power. The fifth hidden truth is pattern. The Vatican archive contains records that show how institutions handle threats to authority. The Shaman parchment, rediscovered in 2001 by Vatican archivist Barbara Frull, concerns the Knights Templar trial and has been interpreted as showing that Pope Clement IV absolved Templar leaders of heresy before the order was ultimately destroyed under political pressure. Then there is Galileo. The archive is known for holding documents tied to his heresy trial. That story is not just religion versus science, though plenty of people flatten it that way because apparently nuance costs extra. The deeper lesson is how institutions react when new knowledge threatens old authority. Templars, Galileo, colonial bulls, Pius XII, slavery. The pattern whispers, power protects itself first, truth arrives second, the wounded arrive last. And then centuries later, someone opens a box and says, well, this is awkward. That is why the collective must stop waiting for institutions to volunteer truth like saints at a bake sale. Archives must be studied. Documents must be translated. Claims must be tested. Ancestral memory must be honored, but not allowed to drift into fantasy without receipts. Core wisdom. Truth is not afraid of archives. Only control is. Scroll 6, the library door is opening, but the people must read. The sixth hidden truth is hopeful. The Vatican Library has a major digitization project aiming to digitize around 80,000 manuscript codices, mostly from the medieval and humanistic periods. The Digital Vatican Library already gives online access to manuscripts, archival materials, incunabula, coins, medals, printed materials, and other collections. That means some hidden knowledge is no longer hidden by walls. It is hidden by attention span. Tragic, yes. The dragon became a search bar, and humanity still got distracted by snacks. But this is important. The collective does not need to wait for a chosen scholar to reveal every mystery. More material is online than many people realize. The real initiation now is discipline. Learn history, compare sources, read the uncomfortable documents, follow the money, the land, the law, the language, and the bodies buried beneath official stories. Core wisdom. The gate is opening. The question is whether the people will walk through it or just argue under the comment section like caffeinated raccoons. The hidden Vatican truth is not one secret. It is a mirror. It shows that spiritual language can liberate, but it can also be weaponized. It shows that holy offices can shelter the vulnerable, but also hesitate while evil marches. It shows that old documents still breathe inside modern law, land, race, wealth, war, migration, technology, and memory. So let the collective remember. Do not worship institutions. Do not demonize blindly either. Study them, audit them, translate them, hold them accountable. Recover what was stolen, protect what is sacred, and never let power tell you that buried paperwork is just history. Because history is not dead. History is a witness. And sometimes the witness has been sitting in a Vatican box for 500 years, waiting for somebody with sense, courage, and enough spiritual caffeine to read the evidence. Line to live by. The truth does not need permission to rise. It only needs witnesses brave enough to stop flinching. Spoken like truth, not gossip in a velvet cape. Here are the receipts, all. Not my cousin's dream said a cardinal fought a lizard under Rome receipts. Real receipts. The kind with dates, documents, institutions, and that annoying little thing called evidence. Receipt I'm. The secret archive was renamed because people misunderstood the word secret. The Vatican Secret Archive was officially renamed the Vatican Apostolic Archive by Pope Francis in 2019. The reason given was that the Latin idea of secretum meant something closer to private or belonging to the Pope. But modern people hear secret and immediately start imagining trapdoors, dragons, cursed chalices, and one nervous librarian named Brother Kevin. The document says the term had taken on misleading, negative meanings, so the name was changed. Esoteric knowledge. Names are spells. When an institution changes a name, it is not always just branding. Sometimes it is image repair. Sometimes it is spiritual laundering. Sometimes it is because the old word started telling too much truth by accident. When power says, "It is not secret, it is private," the collective should answer, "Bless your filing cabinet, now open the drawer." Receipt 2. Access is real but restricted. The Vatican Apostolic Archive says research is free, but only qualified scholars can access it. It currently allows consultation of documents generally up through the end of Pope Pius XII's papacy in October 1958. So yes, some material is open, but not everybody come in wearing Crocs and spiritual sunglasses. Open. Restricted memory creates controlled history. When only certain people may enter the archive, the people outside inherit fragments, rumors, and hunger. That hunger becomes conspiracy when institutions do not feed the people truth. The Vatican archive is like grandma's locked pantry. They say there is nothing strange in there. But they still will not let everybody near the preserves. Suspicious? Maybe. Historically normal? Also yes. Humanity remains dramatic and paperwork-based. Receipt 3. The doctrine of discovery is officially repudiated, but the damage was real. In 2023, the Vatican addressed the doctrine of discovery and named the papal bulls often tied to it by scholars: Dum Diversas from 1452, Romanus Pontifex from 1455, and Inter Cetera from 1493. The Vatican stated that the doctrine of discovery is not Catholic teaching, but also acknowledged that those documents did not adequately reflect the equal dignity and rights of indigenous peoples. This is one of the deepest hidden teachings. Empire often needs a blessing costume. First comes greed, then ships, then law, then holy language sprinkled on top like spiritual seasoning over theft. Colonization did not only steal land, it tried to steal memory, language, ancestry, and the sacred relationship between people and place. When somebody steals your house and says God signed the permission slip, check the handwriting. Heaven does not forge paperwork for colonizers. Receipt 4. The Vatican acknowledges the Church's slow condemnation of slavery. Pope Leo XIV's 2026 encyclical Magnifica Humanitas discusses slavery, trafficking, human dignity, and artificial intelligence. It states that the Church's full, formal, universal condemnation of slavery developed slowly, and that slavery had been tolerated long before being unequivocally condemned. It also links modern technology and exploitation to new forms of subordination. The old chain was iron. The new chain may be data, debt, labor exploitation, trafficking, surveillance, algorithmic control, and spiritual exhaustion sold as productivity. The empire did not vanish. It got a software update and a subscription plan. Naturally, because even oppression has learned branding. Witty, compassionate wisdom. If a system works you to death, tracks your soul through your phone, sells your attention, and calls it innovation, that is not progress. That is Pharaoh with Wi-Fi. Receipt Vi. The Pius XII wartime archives are massive and still being studied. The United States Holocaust Memorial Museum describes the Pius XII-era Vatican archives as about 16 million pages that may shed light on what Pope Pius XII and church leaders knew and did during World War II and the Holocaust. The archives opened to scholars in 2020. This is not a simple good guy, bad guy scroll. The deeper truth is institutional tension, private rescue, public silence, diplomacy, fear, moral delay, and people being crushed while leaders measured their words. That is the kind of spiritual test institutions fail when they worship caution more than life. If people are being hunted and your official response is, "We are carefully evaluating the situation," congratulations, your moral compass has been replaced by a committee meeting. Receipt X. A 1942 letter suggests detailed Holocaust information reached Pius XII's circle. AP reported in 2023 that newly revealed correspondence from German Jesuit Rev. Lothar Koenig to Pius XII's secretary Robert Leiber described Nazi killings of Jews and Poles and transport to Belzec. The report says historians still debate how Pius XII acted, but the letter is important because it challenges claims that the Vatican lacked detailed information. This is the scroll of dangerous knowledge. Knowing creates duty. Once truth enters the room, silence becomes a choice. The soul cannot say, "I did not know," after the document is already sitting on the desk, breathing like a witness. Witty, compassionate wisdom. The universe has one rule for leaders. Once the receipt lands, you cannot pretend the printer jammed. Receipt Vesepen. Catholic institutions also sheltered thousands of Jews in Rome. AP also reported that Catholic Jewish research identified records showing that Catholic convents and monasteries in Rome sheltered more than 3,000 Jews during World War II. That matters because truth is not lazy. It can hold rescue and silence in the same historical room without turning either one into propaganda. This is the dual scroll. Institutions can be compromised while individuals inside them act with courage. A system may hesitate, but the righteous hidden within it may still open doors, hide children, share bread, and risk everything. The collective must learn to judge precisely, not blindly. Do not throw away the whole temple without checking who is hiding the children in the back room. But do not let the temple use those brave people as a shield forever either. Nice try, stone building. Receipt 8. The Vatican Library is digitizing 80,000 manuscript codices. The Vatican Digital Library says the Vatican Library's digitization project aims to digitize about 80,000 manuscript codices, mostly from the Middle Ages and Humanistic period, for preservation and online access. The gate is opening, but the initiation is discipline. The hidden is not always behind a locked door anymore. Sometimes it is online, unread, waiting for someone with patience, courage, and enough focus not to get kidnapped by snack videos. The dragon guarding the manuscript has become a search bar, and somehow humanity still loses the battle. Tragic. Very on brand for us. The Vatican's hidden information is not just secret scrolls and candlelit chambers. The real hidden power is archived memory. Who authorized conquest, who blessed empire, who delayed justice, who protected the vulnerable, who stayed silent, and who kept the receipts. The collective does not need blind rage. The collective needs clean sight. Read the documents, follow the dates, compare the sources, honor the ancestors, challenge the institutions, protect the living, and never confuse a holy robe with holy behavior. Truth walked into the Vatican archive and asked, "Who buried me?" The paperwork said, "Please submit Form 12B in Latin." Truth laughed, kicked the cabinet open, and said, "Baby, I am the receipt."
Universal Currency Receipt, Architect Musician 3611027, The Graceful Whisperer, Devalan Orrin.
To our beautiful collective, from our day ones to every new soul joining this journey, we love and appreciate you deeply. You've turned this space into so much more than a community, you've made it a family. Thank you, truly. Your presence, your energy, and even the smallest acts of kindness have the power to shift the compass for many in ways unseen but deeply felt. Here's to each of you, all new and the many more to come. We're just getting started and we're so grateful you're here with us. With love and infinite appreciation from the collective of Shaman Ahll.
Wisdom of legacy and deep compassion. Closing message to seal the Scroll Collective. As this scroll closes, remember this. Legacy is not only what the powerful wrote down. Legacy is also what the wounded survived, what the ancestors whispered through blood memory, and what truth kept breathing beneath centuries of locked doors, polished lies, and institutional "we'll get back to you" energy. Humanity really did invent bureaucracy just to make accountability wear ankle weights. But compassion is the higher key. We do not seek hidden knowledge to become bitter. We seek it to become free. We do not study buried history to worship pain. We study it so the pain stops being repeated with new costumes and better lighting. The Vatican archives, the sealed records, the old decrees, the forgotten letters, the names left out of classrooms, they all teach one sacred lesson. What is hidden will eventually ask to be healed. And when truth rises, the collective must not become cruel like the systems that buried it. We become clearer, wiser, stronger, more protective of children, elders, land, memory, and spirit. That is legacy, not revenge, not blind rage, not yelling at stone buildings like they owe us rent, although spiritually some of them absolutely do. Legacy is when you take what harmed your ancestors and turn it into protection for the next generation. Legacy is when you read the buried record and say, "This ends with us." Legacy is when you refuse to let sacred truth be used as a weapon against the vulnerable ever again. So walk forward with compassion sharp enough to cut chains and soft enough to hold the wounded. Let your wisdom be warm but not sleepy. Let your heart stay open but not gullible. Let your spirit remain loving, but never available for manipulation. The archive may hold the papers, but the people hold the pulse. And as long as the collective remembers, questions, studies, laughs, heals, and rises, no hidden room can keep truth buried forever. A true legacy is not the secret they kept from us. It is the wisdom we became after finding it.
Until next time, your Sea Star Curacy, channeled by 3611027, the Beautiful Whisperer. Ahll Devalan Orrin. Apply the news you can use.